In this video, we'll take a look at some of the best preserved Roman temples in the world. Temple of Augustus and Livia. This impressive temple was built in Vienne, France. It was dedicated to the imperial cult, honoring the Emperor Augustus and his third wife, Livia. It is one of the best preserved Roman temples in France. Built sometime between 20 BC and 10 BC, the temple was originally dedicated to Augustus, then rededicated to his wife Livia in AD 41 by her grandson Claudius, the Roman emperor. After the fall of the Western Roman Empire, as Gaul was Christianized, the temple served as the parish church of Sainte-Marie-la-Vieille, until the French Revolution, when it was made into a temple of reason. Garni Temple. There is a caveat to this next building. It was not constructed by the Romans, and it might not have been a temple at all, nor is it preserved, but rather reconstructed. But it's clearly built to imitate Roman temple construction, so it deserves a mention in this video. In Garni, Armenia, this temple was probably constructed sometime in 70 to 80 AD by the order of King Tiridates I of Armenia, but the date is highly contested even today. Some scholars believe it's a former tomb to one of the pro-Roman kings of Armenia who lived in the 2nd century AD. This argument is sustained by the structural similarities between Garni and several mausolea in Asia Minor. In the early 4th century, when Armenia had become Christian, Trinitatis the Great led a concerted effort to systematically destroy all of Armenia's ancient pagan temples, but the Temple of Garni was spared thanks to the intercession of his sister, Princess Khosrow-Duft. Following an earthquake in 1679, the temple collapsed and was left in ruins for hundreds of years. It was only in the late 19th century that archaeologists began to explore the site, but the stones of the fallen temple were safeguarded in the hopes of one day resurrecting the temple. The temple was restored between 1969 to 1975, while Armenia was under the control of the Soviet Union. The temple is the only surviving pagan temple in Armenia, and the only classical structure still standing in the country. Temple of Augustus in Pula. Located in Pula, Croatia, we find this temple dedicated to Rome's first emperor, Augustus. On the inscription of the temple, we get a clue about when it was built. It reads, "In honor of Rome and Augustus Caesar, son of the deified Julius, father of his country." So it was presumably built sometime late 1st century BC or very early in the 1st century AD. The temple was originally part of a triad of temples on the Forum in Pula, but only the Temple of Augustus survives intact today. However, parts of the back wall of another temple can be seen on the 13th century communal palace. The temple would have been closed down in the 4th century during the persecution of pagans in the late Roman Empire, but it was later reopened during Byzantine rule and converted into a church, and it was later used for grain storage. By the late 19th century, the temple was partly concealed by houses, and unfortunately, the temple was almost completely destroyed in an Allied raid in 1944. But in 1947, it was restored to its original state, which we can see today. Today, it is home to a small museum of Roman sculpture that also houses the occasional temporary exhibition. While it's not as monumental in size as the temples we find in Rome and other major cities around the empire, it still serves as one of the best examples of a Roman temple in the early days of the empire. Maison Carrée, located in Nîmes, France. Maison Carrée, or the Square House, is the best preserved Roman temple outside of Rome. It is a textbook example of how a Roman temple should be built, according to the Roman architectural writer Vitruvius. The temple was dedicated to Gaius and Lucius Caesar, adopted sons of Augustus, and the two candidates to become the next emperor of Rome. However, they both died young. Construction probably began around 19 BC and was commissioned by Gaius and Lucius's biological father, Marcus Agrippa. After the fall of the Roman Empire, the building remained in near constant use throughout the centuries. It's been a church, town hall, archives, and even a stable until it became a museum in 1823. Temple of Hercules Victor. Located in the heart of the empire, in Rome itself, stands a temple dedicated to Hercules the Victor. It was built in the Forum Boarium, the cattle forum, right on the banks of the Tiber River. It was built in the 2nd century BC. It is one of the oldest extant buildings in Rome. The temple is circular in layout, with 20 Corinthian columns orbiting a central cylindrical stone block, and it is said to be the place where Hercules rested after his 10th labor. It was long believed to be a temple dedicated to the Vestals, due to the round construction, but was correctly identified by Napoleon's prefect of Rome in the early 19th century. Temple of Portunus. Not far away from the temple to Hercules Victor stands the Temple of Portunus. This temple is also one of the oldest buildings in Rome, dating from the 2nd or the 1st century BC. Portunus is a god associated with livestock and harbours, which is fitting considering the temple is located right on the banks of the Tiber River in the old cattle market of Rome. At this temple, an annual festival, the Portunalia, was celebrated on the 17th of August. The Temple of Portunus is in an excellent state of preservation. In 872 AD, the ancient temple was rededicated as a Christian shrine sacred to Saint Mary of Egypt, leading to the preservation. This and the temple to Hercules on the Forum Boarium are considered the best preserved examples of Roman Republican architecture. Baalbek Temple. This temple is believed to be dedicated to the wine god, Bacchus, and was commissioned by Emperor Antoninus the Pious sometime during his reign, 138 to 161 AD. It's located in Baalbek, Lebanon. It has been unused since its original purpose, and was presumably closed down sometime during the 4th century AD, when the Roman Empire started to prosecute the pagan religions. But it may have been part of the medieval fortifications of Baalbek. The temple was first excavated by a German team in 1898 to 1903. It was restored and partially reconstructed by the Lebanese government in 1920. The temple is enriched by some of the most refined reliefs that have survived from antiquity. Pantheon. The Pantheon is the best preserved building from ancient Rome. The first iteration of this temple was constructed in 27 BC by the statesman Marcus Agrippa. This temple was destroyed by a fire in 80 AD. The second iteration was built during the reign of Domitian, but was hit by lightning in 110 AD and burned down. The current structure was finished during the reign of Emperor Hadrian around 125 AD, but it's believed that the construction began in the reign of Trajan. Traditionally thought to have been designed as a temple for Roman gods, the structure's name is derived from the Greek words pan, meaning all, and theos, meaning gods. However, no cult dedication to all gods is known to have existed in Rome, so the building's exact purpose is still somewhat of a mystery. We do know that Hadrian often held Senate meetings in the building. The 1st century writer Pliny states that the building once housed statues of Venus, Mars, and Julius Caesar. The building has survived remarkably well, probably because relatively early in its history, it was converted into the Church of St. Mary of the Martyrs in 608 AD. In 1270, a bell tower was added to the porch roof, but later removed. The Pantheon may well be the first building from classical architecture where the interior was deliberately made to outshine the exterior. The rotunda was entranced via 2 bronze doors. The rotunda measures 43.2 meters, or 141.7 feet in diameter, which is exactly the maximum height of the dome. Itself, a perfect hemisphere. At the very top of the dome is an opening to the sky, the oculus, which is 8.8 meters in diameter, and has a decorative bronze sheet frieze. It was used by the Italian monarchy as a mausoleum from 1870 to 1946. Another notable tomb is that of the Renaissance painter Raphael. Visiting the temple today is almost like stepping back in time and experiencing the glory of Rome at its height. Thanks for watching the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.